And when you go to bed, your brain kind of goes, there you go, there's a massive block of clay, deal with that. So when you're in MREM, non-rapid eye movement sleep, what your brain's doing is, imagine you're a potter now, you're scraping away all the stuff that doesn't really matter, you're taking away the memories and the experiences that don't really matter. In your rapid eye movement sleep, you're then actually sculpting that and solidifying the memories which do matter. So during the rapid eye movement sleep, we're doing a huge amount of emotional processing, and it's more effective than CBT, any medication that we can give.
But you need your bed to be a positive conversation. You see it and you know that you're going to go to sleep.
We've just destroyed everything good about hundreds of thousands of years of evolution.
We're all believers in the lifestyle medicine, and I think there are some easy wins you can do to help you sleep. So for me, it is about having your bedroom as just a bedroom to sleep in.
Is sleep for just when we're dead?
Yeah, you're right, except you'll be dead sooner if you don't get enough sleep, Ed. If you don't get enough sleep, you're more likely to have heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and let's face it, you're going to feel miserable as well. So it's absolutely crucial.
Welcome back to the BeHelfy Podcast, where we discuss science and longevity tools to help you live a longer life. My name is Dr. Edward Lynch, and I'm a doctor of medicine and lifestyle. I'm pleased today to say that we're going to talk about sleep and light and how we can improve our sleep by understanding a little bit more about how light impacts your sleep. Today I've got two incredible guests with me today. We've got Dr. Nick Sharma and Dr. Helen Kerss. Nick?
I'm Nick Sharma. I'm a stroke and general physician.
I'm Helen Kerss, and I'm a consultant geriatrician and a general physician too. Nice to meet you.
Great stuff. So we are all super, super busy, and it's hard to get sleep right. Everyone's got super crazy schedules, and we've got chaotic sleeping schedules. We've got kids at home. Is sleep for just when we're dead?
Yeah, you're right, except you'll be dead sooner if you don't get enough sleep, Ed. There's loads of research out there. I think we all know it, really, that if you don't get enough sleep, you're more likely to have heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and let's face it, you're going to feel miserable as well. So it's absolutely crucial, and light is also crucial to us getting good sleep. So if I can give you an analogy, I want you to imagine that you're in the British Navy, height of the British Empire. You sat on your boat? Ship? I'm going to go for ship.
Yacht.
On the River Thames, and you're about to go off to India on some exotic adventure. Crucial to this journey is knowing the time. I'm a doctor, I don't get shipping, but you need to know the time to be able to map your route, looking at the stars.
It would help.
And use it. It helps. It definitely helps. So you need to know the time. So you're sat there on your boat on the River Thames, your ship on the River Thames, and you're looking up at Greenwich Observatory, and at the top of the observatory there's this big red ball. It's about a few minutes before 1 o'clock, and the red ball rises a bit, and all your officers around you are all watching this ball, and then it goes up a bit more, and then suddenly it drops down, and at that moment everyone sets their clock to exactly 1 o'clock, so that signals that it's 1 o'clock. Because Victorian watches, beautiful masterpieces in their own right, but they're not completely accurate. They're going to slowly drift. So every day you need to reset it back to the correct time. And our body clocks are exactly the same. They're going to slowly drift off, and we need something to set it back. There's a reason we call it a circadian rhythm, because circa is Latin for about, day. So our rhythms are about a day. And the thing that resets it and gets us back on track is light. And there was an amazing study done by two maniac researchers in America, in Kentucky, in a place called the Mammoth Cave. These researchers were called Kleitman and Richardson. I think we'll talk about Kleitman certainly a few more times over our podcast, because he seems to have done a lot of foundational research. But 1938, Kleitman and Richardson go down into this Mammoth Cave, one of the deepest caves in the world. There's no light getting in, constant temperature, constant humidity, everything is the same all the time deep down in this cave. They brought their lighting. In fact, Google the Mammoth Cave experiment, because there's some weird pictures of these guys down in the cave, and they've got buckets around the legs of their bed to try and stop weird, creepy crawlies getting into bed with them. And they measured their circadian rhythms. And what they found is without light or changing light influencing it, their body clocks drifted away, just like a Victorian clock without someone resetting it.
Nice. What I don't understand is how the Greenwich ball, if everything was showing up, how on earth did that regulate its own time? So we've got these Victorian pocket watches and everyone's setting it off the Greenwich Mean Time. If Greenwich Mean Time knew, why didn't we just give everyone... I love the analogy,
yeah.
but you know what I'm saying?
Well,
it's inconvenient,
they
isn't
probably
it?
had one really good clock.
Okay.
And everyone else.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So talking about Gleitman, he built on, or the researchers, they built on previous research from a French researcher in the 1700s, and the study of the circadian rhythm started with plants, and they looked at something called heliotropism, which is where plant leaves track the sun during the day. And the hypothesis was that the plants are regulating their... Because the leaves would flop down during night, and then during the day they would lift up and track the sun. So the hypothesis was that the plants were using the light as a way of regulating their rhythm. So this French chap in the 1700s, took the plant and put it in a box, put it in a completely sealed black box, and then peeped in at it. It was a controlled light environment, and what he found was that actually the plant was still doing this in the absence of any light. So then he worked out that, okay, the plant is creating its own, what we call endogenous circadian rhythm. So the research kind of started from there, which was, it's not just light that affects it, but it is one of the main, it happens every single day. It's incredibly predictable. You know, the sun rises during the morning, sets at night, and it's the thing that humans and the whole animal kingdom has set its circadian rhythm on. But that started with the plant. It still has this self-created circadian rhythm. And what you talked about there was the average human's circadian rhythm is actually slightly longer than 1 day, but then because the sun is rising at the same time and setting roughly, okay, it does change obviously throughout the seasons, but that is a constant which you can then self-regulate your circadian rhythm to.
Yeah, exactly. So our rhythms will drift away if we don't reset them, and it's a tiny part of our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, that's crucial to this, detecting light and adjusting our regulation.
And I just think sleep is amazing, and I love the fact that we all have our own internal circadian rhythm, and I think it's just fascinating. We know that we need to sleep. We spend a third of our life asleep. So I'm going to try and explain it as easily as I can, so bear with me. So we have circadian rhythm to help us sleep. And then in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, is tiny. It's smaller than a grain of rice, and it sits by our optic nerve. So light will come into our eyes, goes through the SCN, and then goes down to the pineal gland. And what we find is that during the day, and I'm going to try and get this right because I don't want to get it wrong. So when it is dark, we increase the amount of melatonin, and melatonin is used, so it's like a starting gun for a race. So the melatonin, think of it as the gun goes, and then all the other hormones involved in sleep are released. So as I say, melatonin is released when it is dark, and then by the time we wake up in the morning, it disappears, and we need the morning light to try and help set the circadian rhythm. There are other hormones involved as well. We have adenosine, which increases during the day and then decreases when we're asleep. And that's why sleep is so important, because you have to wash it out of your body during the night. There's things like cortisol and growth hormones. They also play a part of our sleep cycle. But I think for today, we're just talking about how important light is to try and regulate our own circadian rhythm. And there's things that we can do to try and improve our own sleep. So that morning light, getting up, getting the light straight into the eyes is a perfect start for it.
Yeah, it's interesting because what you've touched on there, Helen, is the two drivers which dictate our wake and sleep drive. So the adenosine is that sleep pressure. It's a sleep pressure that builds up during the day. The longer we're awake, it just keeps on rising and rising and rising. And then as you sleep, it just washed away. And then that's in fine balance with the circadian rhythm, which is... It's called process C for circadian, but there are lots of... Your circadian rhythm it's not just light, it's also... Your circadian rhythm's closely linked with your body temperature, so your body temperature actually rises and falls throughout the day, but also so do certain hormones, and you can regulate your circadian rhythm not just on light, but also on like when we eat and when we expose ourselves to exercise, or... Even regular social interactions can regulate that circadian rhythm, which is why blind people, they've got no light going into their eyes, but they can still regulate the circadian rhythm with regular exposure to something. So whether that be food, exercise, social interactions or whatever. But it's interesting to see how those two factors interplay, and it's the two pressures, the sleep pressure and the wakefulness that's driven by the circadian rhythm, which dictates if we're awake or asleep.
Yeah, and I think what you said about the adenosine drive is really interesting, because as you say, it builds up and builds up, makes us more and more tired. But because of our circadian rhythm, we'll still have periods where we suddenly feel a bit more awake, despite... So even if you pull an all-nighter in the morning, you'll still naturally feel a bit more awake, because your cortisol will kick in and almost override that adenosine for a little bit before you then crash back down and feel exhausted as that wears off.
Yeah.
When we look at things like jet lag as well, so if somebody's travelling east in the world and they're adding on time into their day, it becomes really, really hard to regulate your circadian rhythm. So say if you flew from London to Japan, I think the time difference is about 8 hours, something around there. I'm sure someone will correct me. But your SCN can only regulate about an hour a day, which is why if you fly east, your body is trying to adapt to an 8-hour time difference. So obviously where the sun is at is very, very different to where you're going. So there are techniques that you can use around, we're going to touch on these, but melatonin, food, blue light. But your SCN as an actual thing biologically can only adjust by an hour a day. So it is interesting. That's why you get so jet lagged. And it's actually easier to go west than it is to go east. So if you fly to New York, you actually get a lot less jet lagged. But I feel so bad for health workers, because they're going from nights to days, and you've got like a day in between. I think it's a joke. Yeah,
it's so dangerous for your health. There's loads of research that shows increased mortality from working shift patterns, higher stress. It's just generally bad for you.
Can you touch on a bit of the pathophysiology? Like, if we're not getting regular sleep, what can it do to us?
What can it do to, i.e., hold on, I'm going to throw that back to you. I.e., what do you mean? The diseases it can cause, or how you're actually going to feel?
Everything. The negative effects of not sleeping.
So we know that less than 5 hours sleep a day can increase our risk of cancer. So, and there's loads of studies out there that can prove that. We know that if your sleep pattern changes, if you are having less sleep, you are increased risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes and depression. And I think as well, I look back to when I had young children and my sleep was terrible, and it also affects the foods that you eat, because I think when you are sleep deprived, you go more for the carbohydrate foods because you want that sugar boost to overcome the sleepiness. So sleep is one of those things where I think it's underestimated how important it is. But you rightly say there's lots of different triggers, and actually there's not one perfect thing that you can do to improve your own sleep cycle. Yeah. And I think naturally there's lots of us that might be a night owl, or there might be the morning lark. I'm definitely the morning lark.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, I much prefer the mornings. But I think nowadays, because we all have to work 9 to 5, the night owls are trying to fit in with the new jobs, and it's about, their circadian rhythm probably doesn't actually fit in with the 9 to 5, but it's trying to give people the little tools to improve their own sleep at night.
Yes, I think it's 40% of people are the morning larks, 30% are the night owls, and then 30% are kind of in the middle, but leaning towards later in the day. And it's funny, isn't it? Because we've set up our entire society for the morning larks.
Yeah.
So then the people who are more set up for later on in the day. They're having to get up earlier. They're going to bed later, and they're up earlier.
And they're exhausted.
So they're just knackered.
Yeah.
So they're not performing anywhere near what they should be. So
what they can do, and like you said, more at risk of cancer, diabetes, all those things, because their hormones are out of whack, basically. Because it's also things like ghrelin and leptin. Leptin is involved in reducing appetite. Ghrelin is like this gremlin, I like to think of it, that's making you hungrier. And so, you become obese, you become unwell. And like you say, these owl-type people are being, you could say, discriminated against. They're being forced to live in a society that's not built for their way of living.
Yeah. Then thinking about, so if you've got a shorter sleeping window, so if they're sleeping for 5 hours, when we look at a sleep cycle, so if we track when somebody goes to sleep and we look at what happens, we monitor the brainwaves, it's called a hypnogram. You can Google that and have a look. Sleep happens in these kind of 90-minute blocks, and we go through the different phases of sleep. So we're going through, at the top, we've got awakeness, then you're dropping down into NREM, which is where you go into deeper stages of sleep. So you've got stage 1, 2, and 3, and 4 right at the bottom of deep sleep. And then you come up into this thing called REM, which is rapid eye movement sleep. And that was Kleitman again that found that research. But in rapid eye movement sleep, you're doing different things. Your brain's processing different parts of your day at different parts of your sleep. So there's an analogy around a block of clay. So during your day, when you're awake, you're accumulating this huge mass of clay. And when you go to bed, your brain kind of goes, there you go. There's a massive block of clay. Deal with that. So when you're in MREM, non-rapid eye movement sleep, what your brain's doing is, imagine you're a potter now. You're scraping away all the stuff that doesn't really matter. You're taking away the memories and the experiences that don't really matter. In your rapid eye movement sleep, you're then actually sculpting that and solidifying the memories which do matter. So during the rapid eye movement sleep, we're doing a huge amount of emotional processing, and it's more effective than CBT, any medication that we can give. And if the key thing is, let's go back to the sleep cycle now. Proportionately, the later cycles, so if we sleep, we're doing around 4 to 5 sleep cycles. We're doing 4 to 5 90-minute cycles. In cycles 4 and 5, it's proportionally a lot more REM sleep than is NREM. So if you're missing out on those last 2 cycles, you're missing out on a huge amount of your emotional regulation that your brain is doing. So I feel really bad for those guys and girls who are missing out on their later sleep cycles because their emotional regulation's a lot poorer. So if they're trying to, we look at anxiety and stress in a population, but if you're missing out on those last 2 sleep cycles, there's no wonder you're going to feel like absolute crap.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like a psychotherapist in you at night that comes out and deals with your emotions and helps you process them. And if you don't get that, you can have a worse quality of life.
Yeah.
And like you said, you learn as well, don't you? How many times have you, I remember when I was a kid playing computer games, being stuck on a level and I'd try again and again and again and again, couldn't get past it. It's probably the same learning to ride a bike or whatever else, and then you sleep and next morning, boom, you do it. You just smash past it because you've just had to consolidate that learning overnight.
Yeah. That a lot of your motor control comes from your NREM. So if you're learning to play the piano or you're playing football, as you say, you come away from that thing, sleep on it. It's your non-rapid eye movement sleep that you're doing a lot of that fine motor and coarse motor reconciliation. You're looking at that and your brain is actually, going through that and learning those motor skills, and that's happening during NREM.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So what do we do about it? And coming back to light, I read this this amazing study where they took a group of people and measured their sleep quality. People who live in a city, live a normal life, and what they found was they had reasonable, moderate quality sleep, but they all had different sleep patterns. Then they took them and basically sent them camping for 10 days, a week, 10 days, about that. And what they found was they all locked into the same pattern. They all started releasing melatonin at the same time, sleeping at about the same time, about the same sleep quality and sleep duration, because you'd taken away artificial light.
Were they sleeping in a tribe?
They were in they were essentially it was like being a tribe, wasn't it? So
that makes
they're
no
at a
sense
campsite together. Well, it's because they're all exposed to the same light.
Okay.
I get what you're saying, that some should be owls and some should be larks, because if you think about us prehistorically, you wanted your owls and your larks so that you've not got much time when no one's asleep. And actually there's a third group of biphasic sleepers. You'll sleep for a bit, wake up for a couple of hours in the middle of the night, and then go back to sleep. So if you've got all these people in your tribe, you've basically got...
Siestas.
Yeah, exactly. You need siesta people as well. But you need the whole group, but that basically gives you kind of 24/7 cover, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To watch out for predators. So you're right, they probably had those different patterns, but when it came to their melatonin, they all started releasing melatonin at the same time, which was almost exactly when the sun started setting.
And I think that is a beautiful study, and it shows that actually a lot of our sleep disruption is probably due to our lifestyle factors that we are now living. When, you think about actually the bedroom the bed has to be a positive connotation for sleep. So some people who may work in their bed or watch television in their bed, it takes you back to, do you remember Pavlov's dog? And the experiment, you could ring a bell and a dog would start to saliva because they thought there was food. But you need your bed to be a positive connotation. You see it and you know that you're going to go to sleep.
I mean, we've just destroyed everything good about literally the hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. It's just gone, there's a load of tech deal
in like
with that.
100 years. Yeah. Well, when I was, when was it? 2015, 2016, I went travelling with my wife just before we got married, actually. And we went to this island in Southeast Asia. We got a boat out there, got on the island. There's only a generator on the island. There's only like 3 places you can stay. And there's just lighting at the bar, and that turns off at 10 o'clock, I think it was. So we were basically living with normal day and night, and we stayed in this little hut, which was walls on 3 sides, and one side was just open to the sea. You could look over the edge, and the sea was just there. The best night's sleep I've basically since that day been trying to recreate that night's sleep. It was transformative, and I wish I could do it again, but it was just stripping away all the fake stuff. Admittedly, you're chilled because you're travelling.
I was going to say, is that not just because you're on holiday with your wife?
Well, but we went travelling for 6 months, and that was the best night's sleep.
Okay,
that was the one that made the difference. So yeah, it was incredible.
You have to set your entire house up like that now.
Exactly.
I expect a lake when we
a
go to
lake. Yeah. Some sand on the side. Yeah. I don't think we've quite got the weather for it.
No, not quite. Another thing that I found really interesting was when we looked at anthropologically, we've stemmed from monkeys and apes, and they obviously sleep in trees. And what has allowed us as humans to really progress is our emotional control. So our ability to understand facial recognition, how people are responding facially, the social dynamics between people, and that takes a lot of emotional control and processing in order to do that. So we touched on that earlier, which is REM. During your REM sleep, your rapid eye movement sleep, that is when you're doing that bit. But you also become paralysed in REM. So if you look at somebody in rapid eye movement sleep, you'll see their eyes under their eyelids going all over the place, but also they're completely floppy. So if you picked up their arm, they'd just be atonic, there's nothing to them. If you're sleeping in a tree doing that, it's not going to end very well. It's like trying to get a grocery bag in a tree. You're just going to flop around and hurt yourself. So monkeys have a lot less REM sleep than us. And again, when we looked at the evolution, humans then developed to sleep on the ground, on the floor. But it was only after they discovered fire that happened, because fire would stave off predators and the smoke would get rid of the bugs and things. But then because we slept on the floor, it doesn't matter if we go floppy. So if we go floppy, we get more REM. Well, more REM means that you're floppy. Yeah. But you're doing a lot more emotional regulation and control. Therefore, evolution studiers think that we then can regulate our emotions a lot better and then descend into tribes people a lot easier, and our social interactions then improve. So then rather than going around and just randomly stabbing each other because we're, we've got no emotional control, we can actually get on and live as a tribe, and therefore you're stronger as a tribe. And then if you've got people who are sleeping biphasically, your survival chances go up massively.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And talking about that REM sleep, I heard that when they do sleep studies, REM sleep on an EEG looks so similar to normal activity. The only way they know you're asleep is there's electrodes on your muscles, and they're looking for that loss of tone that you talked about when you go floppy. And that's the only way they can confirm that it's not actually just being awake, it is actually sleep.
Yeah, and you get that during your non-rapid eye movement sleep. I think we talked about this earlier, which is that the coordination of the brain waves. So Matthew Walker talks about this in Why We Sleep, that book. He talks about when you're awake, when we're doing an EEG, imagine a microphone in the middle of a football stadium.
Yeah.
That's like the electrode on the top of your head. And if we were to record you when you're awake, it's like being in a football stadium and everyone's having those individual conversations in a football stadium. We're just talking to each other, lots of different chatter, loads of noise, and we're picking up that kind of frantic brainwave, which is what we see in awake states and rapid eye movement, as you just said. But then when we go into the deeper sleep, it's like when a crowd starts to sing a song, where everyone becomes coordinated together, singing the same thing and going quiet at the same time, singing at the same time and going quiet at the same time. And it's that coordination of literally millions, billions of neurons that really helps wash your brain of adenosine.
Absolutely. And
you're going to touch about the glymphatic system.
Oh yes,
yeah,
I talk about that as well, because it is fascinating the way it washes your brain. But also, I think, like you said, Matthew Walker talks, and got to shout out Matthew Walker's book, Why You Sleep. It's a stunning book. Everyone should read it. But you're right, he talks about it being like people singing together. I think of it as more like a Mexican wave, like the crowd all standing up and it flowing across the stadium, because that's what's happening in your brain. It starts at the front, and this signal waves comes over your brain like this beautiful wave crashing over your brain, and he describes it as being like it's pushing your newly formed memories at the front of your brain back gently, passing on that information to the long-term storage area at the back of your brain. So that's how you're securing those memories. But yeah, the other fascinating thing to talk about is what you said about the glymphatic system.
Yeah.
So the glymphatic system is what washes your brain with your CSF, your spinal fluid, washes away all the toxins. And at night, our cells in our brain shrink by up to 60% to make more space between them for this fluid to flush through and basically just wash away all the rubbish for the day, leaving you fresh and ready to go again. And they think some of the things they wash away are things like tau proteins. And
what's a tau protein?
Tau protein is one of these. Think of it as a tangled up, messed up protein.
Chewing gum is how I would describe
chewing
it.
Gum, that's perfect. Amyloid is the other one. And they're implicated, they're thought to be the things that cause lots of diseases, but specifically Alzheimer's disease. So there's a clear link there where you're getting good sleep, you're washing away all those toxic proteins and reducing the risk of Alzheimer's dementia.
Love it.
And we do see, I suppose, the other one to touch on where we see sleep disorders in the REM is with Parkinson's. So again, Parkinson's a progressive neurological disorder, but they have defects for years before in their sleep, so they will act out their sleep. So normally, as you beautifully described, we should be paralysed, but Parkinson's patients aren't, and they will act out their sleep.
That's
and
interesting.
I just think it's bonkers.
I wonder if that's anything, because it's the thalamus, isn't it, that is blocking the signals up to your brain. So your thalamus is kind of like this gate that stops because in REM, you're dreaming. Your thalamus is like a gate that closes, and the reason that we're paralysed is because if you're dreaming about, I don't know, Dave who's pissed you off last week, you don't want to be acting that out especially if you're in a tree. But you know, you don't want to be acting out your dreams, which is why the thalamus is like a gateway. But I wonder in Parkinson's if their thalamus is functioning correctly, and if they've lost that aspect of it.
Absolutely,
we'll
it makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. So, do we need to talk about what we do about all this?
Absolutely, yeah. What are we going to do, Helen?
I think we're all believers in the lifestyle medicine, and I think there are some easy wins you can do to help you sleep. So for me, it is about having your bedroom as just a bedroom to sleep in. So taking away the technology, having a bed.
Would you have it in the same room, or would you just completely remove it?
So I would remove it.
So do you charge your phone in another room?
I put it outside.
Okay.
And then I feel sad where it is. No, I'm only joking. I'm like, wake up in the night.
Getting FOMO.
But so I don't have a television. I don't have got an old school alarm clock to wake me up in the morning. a temperature of your room, making sure your bedroom is between 16 and 19. And I think, you know, when you go on holiday and it's really hot, I always struggle to sleep, and I'm sure that's due to the temperature of the room. If it's colder, I will sleep better, but if it's hot, no, it's no good for me. And then things like, you know, trying to stay off your digital devices at least 60 minutes before going to bed. Not exercising too soon. Some people, I suppose that's one that's different for everyone. I know some people who will really struggle if you exercise 90 minutes before bed. And that prevents you from sleeping.
Yeah, it's that blue light, isn't it, within 60 minutes of sleeping that really is just going to knock off that circadian rhythm that we've talked about. And I think the big thing for me is within the first 15 to 30 minutes of waking up, making sure that you get some light in the back of your eyeballs, because when it's hitting those retinal ganglion cells and then it's hitting your SCN, it's telling your brain it's morning, we are awake, and let's go. Without that light, you're buggered. Even if it's winter, I find I'll turn the lights on full blast. I don't know if you've got dimmers in yours, but I'll crank it up. It's horrible. There's nothing worse than getting the lights on in the morning, you know, especially upon waking. But I've set my Alexa up now on a kind of timer, whereas with a regimented sleep routine, the lights just come on full blast, but then you feel fine after the first couple of minutes. Of course, it's horrible, but I think as soon as you're up within the first 15 minutes, you need to be getting bright light in your eyes.
Absolutely. And so if I describe what I do now, I've, in my quest to replicate my stunning beachside island sleep, I've got one of those sleep lights at home that gradually lightens and replicates the sunrise as heading towards the time I need to get up. Then I go downstairs. This time of year it's freezing but also dark. I put on my SAD light to replicate light, and if you don't have enough light outside, you need a really bright, so a specialist light.
Is that just like a really bright white light?
Very bright white light, yes. I put that on, so I'm blasting myself with light. Then I put the heating on in the house to gradually warm the house up. Basically replicating what a normal day would have been like historically, where the light comes in and then the world warms up a little bit, and that gradually wakes me up. I would say that might not be for everyone. I think if you're a owl type and you need to be training your body to get up in the morning, it's absolutely the right thing to do for you. If you're a bit of a lark, there's a possibility that you might make yourself even more of a lark and push your sleep, your waking up time even earlier. So you need to be careful. And it comes back down to it's almost become my catchphrase now, that you need to be a scientist of yourself, and you need to figure out what you want to improve, figure out how you're going to measure it, and then just try different things until you find the one that works for you.
Because I think, and I think that's so true, because for me, if I think about how I am in the summer months to the winter months, we can all jump out of bed, and I'm sure it is the morning light in the summer. In the winter, when we get up and go to work in the dark and come home in the dark, it's depressing.
Yeah, the thing is though, I fully agree with you. But since I've been turning the lights on full whack, it's actually fun. Like you look a bit mental because your house is completely lit up. My dad always shouts at me like, "What on earth are you doing? Save some energy." But without it, my mental health's down, my energy's down, and I find it just helps so much.
You're 100%. You're absolutely right. And I think. But the only thing is that normal lighting in a house is nothing compared to sunlight. Definitely. So if you can get outside, even on a cloudy day, it's way more lux, like units of light energy, than you can get from a light bulb. So get outside if you can, be in the actual sun. If you can't get an SAD light, but also think about the evenings, because as you say, if you've got those lights going on when you're ready to go to bed, they're going to be keeping you awake. So you need the opposite, a routine where you dim those lights back down again as you come towards the end of the day.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both for coming on today. I feel like I am also a lot clearer on what I need to do, and I think there's a few other takeaways which we'll go and research. But if anybody listening is interested in any of the additional services that we provide at the Wellbeing Doctors or at BeHelfy, you can speak to one of these great chaps to my left about your overall lifestyle, how to improve your nutrition, your sleep, or whatever it is. You can also take some of these blood tests and we can help you work out what's going on, because all of these things are really, really confusing, especially when we look at, are you on any medications? What's your exercise like? What's your past medical history? It's all very confusing. So we would love to help you. If there's anything else we can do, please contact us at BeHelfy.com, and you can just follow some links in there and drop us an email. But thanks for watching.